And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is
exporting our game as an executable application file. So if you see here, I've already got an example of one that I exported earlier. If I were to right click on this and hit properties, you would see that it is an application file and that it is actually registered as a .exe, which means that it is its own program. It's going to launch itself. Now, if I was to double click and play that, you'll see that I got a little splash screen, and then from there, if I push play, I should be able to get into my game, hit the trigger box. Let's see if I go to the next trigger box, go to the next level. See if I can get there before I die. Return to main menu and quit the game, which is what we want. So we have a fully functioning, workable game. Obviously, at this point, before getting to the execute, I will have double-checked everything. I will have beta-tested everything. I will make sure that all the menus are working correctly, that they're sending me to the right place, that when I die, I get respawned to the areas that I'm supposed to, that everything is working correctly, right? So this is the absolute last thing that we do prior to turning in our game, right? So this will be the last thing we do to the game. Okay, so let's figure out how to make this real quick. All right, so what I've done is I've gone into the final version of my game. So if you'll remember, this was Project 10 Elevator for me. In the previous tutorial, what I did was I brought in my spaceship level. You'll see that the spaceship level is there. So what I want to do is obviously after checking everything, what we're going to do is we're going to go into settings and we're going to go into project settings. From here, what we want to do is we want to scroll all the way up to the top over here, and the first thing that you'll see is crypto, which does not mean money. It actually means how you're going to do the encryption. So if you were sending a file of this to somebody else, you could also provide them an encryption key that they would need to be able to open this in case somebody else was able to get a copy of this. If they did not have the encryption key, they would obviously not be able to play your game. So, for the sake of making sure that your game doesn't get out there prior to, you actually releasing it, you can use cryptos. We're not going to deal with that. We are going to go, however, into description. And here, the first thing that we'll see is that we actually have a project thumbnail. So if we look at that project thumbnail, we'll see that it is a 192 by 192 pixel square, and it is set up as a PNG. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to open up Photoshop if you have Photoshop, and if not, I'll show you another website that you could go to. Let's pull this over here. So the other thing you could do if you don't have Photoshop, I think most people have figured, let's see, GIMP 2, and I think the latest version is this one right here. So if you were to go to the GIMP website, you'd be able to download GIMP and be able to do what we're going to need to do with this. There's the download site right there. If not, if you have Photoshop, go ahead and open up Photoshop. I think I've already got a version. I've actually got one of each one of these. Okay, so the first one is going to be a 9 by 9, 192 by 192 pixel square. Again, I don't want to make this into a Photoshop tutorial, but you would hit new. When you created a new one, it would actually ask you over here what the pixels are. So you go 192 by 192. You'd make sure that this was set to pixels. This is going to be a graphics, it's not going to be for print, so anything around 70 to 90 should be fine. It is going to be something that's going to be on a screen, so go ahead and use the RGB, not the CMYK, because you're not going to be printing this. And I left mine at 16-bit, and you could have a white background, it doesn't matter because you'll eventually end up changing that. So you'll hit create. You'll come in there, you'll add some information, you'll put the name of your project, you'll grab maybe a square or something, give it some color, mess with the layers. Where's the layers panel here? Oh, there it is. All right, and once you've got a nice little logo deal, and I'll go back to mine so you can see what I did with mine. you're going to go to File and you're going to hit Export. So, or in this case, it's going to be File, Save As. And obviously save it as a Photoshop document, put it somewhere. This is why I created a Photoshop folder here, so then that way I could leave those Photoshop documents there and I would have them close to my project. So save it as a Photoshop document, and then also go in and change the type to PNG. Okay, so then you're saving it both as a Photoshop document, as a PSD and a PNG. The PNG is important because that's the file type that it's going to need for this. Once you've got that together, you can go back. Where were we? So we're going to go back to settings, project settings. We were in description. And here what you're going to do is you're going to select that image that you just created. So mine, I believe, happens to be there. So I can hit open. And now I have that as the project file image that will show up as a thumbnail. From there, I can change the name of my project. So let's go ahead and call this Evil Cubes. It's going to be the first version of this project, so I don't want to change that. If I want to, I could go ahead and put in my publishers or my company name. So this would be Knitgram Games. You know, I really don't know what that means. Company distinguished name. Maybe there's a proper name for the company. Your homepage, so www.knitgramgames.com. That's not a real website. Don't go there. I really have no idea what that would do. There. Okay, and then you would fill out any other information. The other thing that we also want to change here is the displayed. So when this pops up, you know, there's usually like words that show up underneath your logo. So if you wanted that to happen, we could call this Evil underscore Cubes. And we'll do the same thing here, Evil underscore Cubes. Okay, so from there, that's all we have to do in descriptions. Let's go into game and tags. So not really much that we're going to change there. Let's go into maps and modes. Now this is important because it will keep the game as a first-person player, which is what we want. So that we will leave alone because that's coming from the game that we already created. And then from there, the other thing would be the default map. So right now, this when we start our game, it's going to actually go to the first-person example map. That's actually the first map it's going to go to. So if I want to change that, let's say I wanted to actually go to my main menu. So if I start the game, I want it to go there, and I'm also going to do that as the default as well. So in case at any point something happens and it forces it to go back to a menu, the default menu that it's going to go to, there it is, main map 2. From there, that's it. That's all we need to do in this page, I believe. Game instance. Nope, yep, that's everything we need to do on this page. All right, so from there, the next part is going to be the packaging. So this is going to be how it's going to export the project. I switch this to always, so build. So it will always build a version of the game while it's actually exporting it. From here you have different build configurations that you can give it. So shipping client, development. Let's leave it as development for now. Because we're not shipping it as of yet, so let's leave it as development. And then that's all that we need to do there. Now from there we need to go into supporting platforms, and we need to make sure that Windows is one of those options that are selected. And if that is, then we can scroll down here to the bottom and we can see underneath platforms we're going to go to Windows, and here we're going to need to make another couple of images. So right now the game icon, if we click over it, it's actually an ICO. So instead of it being a bitmap or a TIFF or a JPEG or what we just created, a PNG, this one actually has to be an ICO. Now the other thing is that the file size is 256 by 256. So again, you know, you're going to need to go to Photoshop. Let's go back to Photoshop. Okay, and I've created a logo. Now this is actually a really bad example of a logo. The words are going to be very difficult to see in this. but I'm going to leave it just so I can give you an example of a good logo and a bad logo. This one was actually a good logo. This one showed up really clearly. It was easy to read what the name and the words were. Whereas here, this is a really bad logo because when this is made down to a 256 by 256, it's going to look terrible. You're not going to be able to read that. Anyways, so this is my 256 by 256. Now, Photoshop does not export as an ICO, so what you're going to need to do is save this as a JPEG. So you'll go File, Save As. Do go ahead and save it as a Photoshop document, but then also save it as a JPEG. So I've got mine saved there as a JPEG. From there, what we're going to need to do is find a website that actually allows us to be able to convert, or I'm sorry, I saved mine as a PNG. So save it as a PNG and then PNG to IOC. So, so what I did was I typed in PNG to IOC, and I found two websites. The first one was kind of confusing, so I went to the second one, which is actually what this one is. So all I did was I added my file. So if I look for it, it should be 256 by 256. There's the PNG file that we should have exported. We'll go ahead and hit open. I'll click, this is the file format that I want it to be. This actually stands for icon. That's what it means. So we'll convert now. And once it's been converted, we can hit the download button. I'm not going to because I've already got one that's called this there. Let's go ahead and see what happens anyways. Okay. And let's check to see if that file has actually gone into the correct folder now. It's going to be D Unreal Project Toby Stop. Merge to Photoshop. And I should have an IOC. That one's the PNG. There it is. So that one right there, the one that says icon 256, 256, if I scroll over it, it says type and it says icon, which means it should be an IOC. And let's hit properties, and we will see indeed that we do have an ICO. Sorry, ICO. Okay, so with that done, we can go back and let's go back to settings. Let's go back to project settings, and let's scroll down here to the bottom where we had Windows. And there, now that we have the IOC, we can go ahead and click that one in, and that will now be the game icon. So when we see this on our desktop, this is what we're going to see. The other two things that we need to do now is to create an editor splash screen and a game splash screen. If we hover over these are bitmap images. They're 600 by 200. So again, you're going to go to Photoshop. You're going to create a 600 by 200 file pixeled folder. You'll dress that up however you want. Let me show you what I did with my versions. So I've got one that has the, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Nope, not really. Anyways, so one of them has the word editor up at the top and the other one has the word loading up at the top. Actually, you know what, where I could show you this from is here. And where's my 256 by 256? That would be this one here. So all I did was I took the same pattern. Again, this is going to look terrible. I went online and I actually found PNG images of this and I photoshopped them in, so then that way it has the Unreal and the Epic Games logo there, plus the word loading, and then I exported that again with the word editor. So I exported these as bitmap images, and if for whatever reason Photoshop doesn't allow you to do a bitmap image, if you do have the Adobe suite, you do have Media Encoder, and Media Encoder will allow you to be able to export a JPEG or a PNG image into a bitmap. So if you have Adobe because you're using Photoshop, Photoshop will, with Media Encoder, allow you to be able to export the BMP as, the JPEG into a BMP or a bitmap image. All right, so once you have both of those, we are going to click back. We're going to go back to settings, project settings, scroll down to Windows. Let's put the editor, let's click on the three buttons there, and this one was the one that was supposed to be editor. Let's hit open, And let's hit this one, and let's make sure that one's the loading screen, and hit open. And I want to make sure that I actually loaded the bitmap images. Notice how when I scroll over this one it says BMP, and I scroll over that one it says JPEG. I want to make sure I have the bitmap images. Alright, so we have both. Alright, so at this point we should be done. Let's go ahead and let's say, okay, so it just asked me to import those into the project. Alright, so with those things done, we now should have everything that we need in project settings done. So let's just go back and recap. So what we did was we went into descriptions, we gave the project a thumbnail, and then we went through and made any project descriptions. I don't know, I'll type in my game for description. We gave it, and if we had anything like copyright notices or anything else like that that we wanted legally to show up on the document in the metadata, it would be here. We then went to game maps and modes, where we made sure that it was a first-person game. We made sure that it was going to open up in the main menu map, which is the menu that has our buttons to be able to start the game properly. From there we went into packaging, and we made sure that it was going to build, and that we were developing this as a development, not as a shipping client or anything else like that. From there, we went into supported platforms. We made sure that Windows was one of those supported platforms, and then we scrolled down here to the bottom underneath platforms and went into Windows, and then followed the sizes. This one being the icon was 150 by 150. The icons up here are the splash screens are going to be 620 by 620, 620. I'm sorry, 600 by 200, 600 by 200, and this one was 150 by 150, I guess. Okay, so with all of that done, and we've made sure that everything is correct, we can now go to File, Package Project, Windows, and we want this to be Windows 64-bit. The 32-bit, if you're going to be playing this on a computer that has less than 4 gigs, would be the 32-bit. But all the computers that we have at school are going to be over 4 gigs in size. So let's make sure that these are 64-bit. And let's hit OK. And then it's going to ask, where do you want to save this? So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm actually going to create a folder that this can go into. And I'm going to say finished game. We're going to select that folder, and at this point we're going to sit back and wait. This could take anywhere from a couple of minutes to maybe an hour, depending on how much stuff you had in your game and how complex the game was. So I'll come back as soon as this is finished. Okay, so I just got that little beep that lets me know that everything is finished and complete. You should have gotten a message down here at the bottom that said now it's done. I would have kept recording, except for I think that in my case the video, I had to actually stop my capture program for my desktop, because I was actually stopping this from building. So I did have to come back to that, so I wasn't able to catch that on video. Okay, so with that done, again I'm going to do a save, file, save. And let's go ahead and close this out, and let's go and actually go look for our game real quick. So in my case, I would have put it on the D drive, Unreal Projects, there's Merge Attempt 2, there's the file called Finished Game, which is what I put it in. It left it in a file called Windows No Editor, and there it is, Project 10, but I mean, I guess that's the name of the game, Project 10 Elevator, and if I double click on it, I get my loading screen, I get the game, I get my mouse, I get to push play, I push the button, not the text, I have all the weapons, if I walk forward.
Hello and welcome, player.
I get,
press the E key on your keyboard to open the door.
Let's see if the E key works. So that's probably something I should check before I built. Alright, thankfully I've got this. I can go through. That takes me to the next level. That takes me to the end. I could play the level again, or I could go back to the main menu, and I can now quit the game, and I'm back out. Fantastic.